to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I am Blake Harrison. Joining me as ever is Stuart Whiffen. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. I'm lying. I'm a little bit hungover.
Oh, go on then. What happened?
Just a mate out of the blue yesterday was just like, do you fancy going for a pint? And I don't ever do daytime drinking or Sunday drinking. And it was bloody lovely. Yeah,
so you're saying to all the listeners, you know, please go and do daytime and Sunday drinking?
I'm recommending it.
Yesterday
I would have recommended it. This morning, probably not so much. So
what would Monday Whiffin say to Sunday Whiffin?
Grow up.
I mean, I could say that to any Whiffin. But yeah, no, nice. You had a nice little weekend, a nice little drink down the pub.
It was all right.
And you obviously watched some fights.
I did.
That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about UFC New Mexico.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a little, not a deep dive, definitely not a deep dive, a little shallow
paddle.
It's paddle in the puddle. That is.
Have you ever said paddle in the puddle before?
Paddle in the puddle. I love the sound of it. It feels really nice in my mouth. Paddle in the puddle of, the PFL Bellator champ versus champ stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't really watch it.
Well, it was a few bob. We'll get into it. We're going to start with the UFC. First of all, we're going to start with our lovely sponsors. Yes, ferociousfightwear.com. If you can see on the table here, we've got a nice rash guard. There's some wraps. There's a gum shield. There's also shorts available and all sorts of stuff. They're a fantastic little independent business. They reached out to us, asked if they could be involved in the show, which was fantastic. And I can't recommend their stuff enough. So if you like what you see there, there's so much more other stuff. Head over to ferociousfightwear.com.
There you go.
Okay.
UFC right. Mexico.
Yes.
Look, let's start with the Brit that was on the card, Chris Duncan, former guest of the show. We had him on a little while ago. Lovely bloke. Sadly, it wasn't a great night for him in the end, but it started. It was over very quickly, but it started pretty well for him. Clipped him seems like an understatement. He landed a big shot. Manuel Torres, who's looking very good, like he's no mug. He could go on to be a ranked fighter very, very soon. Chris landed a big shot on him, and I felt like watching it, and again, caveat, never been in a fight, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I felt watching it that, you know those moments you see with fighters where you go, oh, it was really great that they showed patience because they wobbled him, but then they showed patience and that, they didn't rush in too much. I kind of felt like the opposite happened with Chris. I felt like he had him really rattled for a bit, and he should have gone for him. And instead, he almost, in my opinion, showed maybe too much patience. Manuel got his head together again and was able to end up getting into a clinch and a takedown, taking him back. And as we see here on the big screen, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not and you're on the podcast, we've got the big screen up with, unfortunately, Chris getting choked out by Manuel Torres.
It was, I get what you're saying, but it could easily have been a different story. He could have rushed in and gassed himself out. And he's a weird one, I guess. If you clip someone and you're confident in your power, then maybe you think that,
I'll clip him again.
But that ain't how it went.
No.
But best wishes to Chris. Hope he recovers and comes back, because he's a great fighter, and I'm sure he's got a very exciting future in MMA.
Yes, we're going to just rattle for a couple of quick bits on the card, but before we get on to what I think is the main talking points, which is obviously the co-main and the main event.
Yeah.
Yasmin Jauregui versus Sam Hughes. It felt like it was a setup for Yasmin to win this fight. She's 10-1. Sam Hughes is like 8-5, now 8-6. It played out that I think Jauregui was levels above. Sam Hughes was showed heart and willing and all those things. UFC should keep her around to put on good fights.
Yep.
But there was levels there. And then Raul Rosas Jr. injured. Or not injured, but sick.
So
it looked like he had like an illness or something, and was on the day of the fight had to pull out due to illness.
Well, you see him walking into the arena.
Yeah,
there was footage of him walking into the arena. So I don't know if that fight had been pulled at that point. It looked like he was just going into the arena to get set to.
I think he warmed up.
Fight. But from what I gather, is one of the things that you don't do in Mexico is drink the water, and apparently he drank the water.
I've not heard this.
Yeah, that was what I read online. So
you don't drink the water in Mexico?
From what I gather, it's bottled water. I mean, Mexicans, let me know if I'm talking bollocks. But, yeah, that's what it said. Apparently, rule number 1 is you don't drink the water. And he drank the water.
Oh, no. Is he American with Mexican heritage? Because he does the whole sombrero thing and all that. You would think he would know that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff thrown around online. This internet stuff. There's a lot of stuff on there.
I've heard about this internet stuff.
It's going to catch on, mate.
Yeah,
but that was what I read. So I don't know.
Where did you read this, Stu Whiffen?
The internet.
On the MAGA website where they hate all the Mexicans. You can't even drink the water down there. Don't do it, kids.
Oh, don't. But yeah, it was a shame because obviously he had that loss, and I think everybody was hating on him a little bit because he come into a lot of hype quite quickly, didn't he?
Yes.
And then in his
the youngest UFC fighter on the roster, wasn't he?
Come back in last time and put on a great display. So I was looking forward to seeing him fight.
Yep.
But that didn't happen.
It didn't. But one fight that was great and a fighter that looked phenomenal was Zellhuber. Zellhuber looked great against Francisco Prado. They had a Mexico versus Argentina thing going on there. First round was a bit closer.
Yep.
And then second round, Zellhuber just pieced him up. The jabs and the kicks and all that. Just he looked really good. 6'1" at lightweight. Again, not quite as tall as like a Jalen Turner, for example, or a Sam Patterson. But a big, rangy striker that has a decent jab on him. I think he could do good things as well. Him and Manuel Torres, I think, are people to look out for in that lightweight division, could go on and have some really fun fights. Right. Shall we get on to the co-main event of the evening?
I mean, this was a great fight.
Great fight.
And I didn't know how this was going to play out. We know that Yair, we're talking Yair and Ortega, obviously. We know that Yair is a savage, and he lived up to that. I love him. Brian Ortega. When was his last fight?
His last fight, was it the Volk fight, or am I making it up? We're going to have to pull up Tapology now.
I think it was.
It might have been the Volk fight, which was a long... I mean, he hasn't fought for like 2 years, so it would make sense.
And so I weren't too sure. And in that first round, I was like, oh, he's looking a little ring rusty. And Yair looked very much in control, I thought. But as we've seen time and time again, his
last... I'm so sorry to interrupt. The last fight was the Yair fight where he lost due to a shoulder injury.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the last fight. But yeah, carry on what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think when he gets sort of... I think he's at his most dangerous when he's maybe at his most vulnerable. I think he just pulls stuff out of the bag, which is what we saw on this fight. Yep. Also, did you start or did you just watch it on Sunday morning?
No, I just watched it Sunday morning, and by the time the main event came on, I had the kids with me and everything because they got back from swimming. But yeah, I got up and watched it. I'm just looking at Brian Ortega's record now. He had that undefeated run up until he fought Max Holloway for the belt, and Max Holloway pieced him up. Then he took like a year and the best part of a year and a half off. Or maybe even the best part of 2 years, actually, off. And then came in against Chang Sung-jun with his shaved head. And he looked phenomenal. Like, his striking had vastly improved. He had a completely different style. Looked really, really good.
I mean, he always looks good, doesn't he?
Well,
I mean,
look
at him, handsome boy, isn't he?
Well, yeah, no, in that way, yes, he always looks good. Unless you're looking at him after the fight. But yeah, he got pieced up by Max, then came back nearly 2 years away, fought Chang Sung-jun, was incredible, really smashed up Korean Zombie in a way that no one thought he would. Then goes on and fights Volk, where we saw that. I mean, he got Volk in a couple of dodgy positions, but ultimately Volk again kind of smashed him around for a lot of that fight. Then he comes back and fights Yair and gets that shoulder, pops out the socket in like round 1. And then he's taken basically, again, a year and a half to 2 years off and come back and looked sensational other than that first round. It seems like Brian Ortega is his best when he's not been in the cage for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
That seems to be when he does his best work.
So, do you think that there was any part of Yair that was looking past him?
I think potentially. I mean, before we get on to that, I think that we have to just acknowledge Brian Ortega's chin. I mean, unbelievable. He should have been finished in that first round, I think. Or, I mean, not that the ref necessarily should have stepped in or anything, but just like he was so close to being finished. Yair was all over him. I don't know if Yair should have stood back up and got him back to the feet rather than being in his guard and slamming away. But he seems to be so unbelievably durable, Brian Ortega. He seemed to just go in that second round, okay, I'm just going to absorb your shots to get into the clinch to take you down, and then we're in my world, and that's when I'm going to sort things out. But yeah, he just waded through Yair's strikes, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, Yair hits hard. He's got great kicks. I don't know. It was a real showing of Ortega's, arguably his best attribute, alongside his grappling, obviously, is just his toughness and his durability. Because he's so hard to get to finish. So hard to finish. And that is an underrated quality. However, I don't know that it's a quality that's going to win you the belt, as we've seen when he's fought Max, when he's fought Volk. And we can talk about what he goes on to next. But you mentioned as Yair looked past Ortega, because he was having the beef with Topuria, and there was a
beef.
Ortega coming off of a year and a half or more out the cage, when he's already lost to Yair, albeit through an injury, on a 2-fight losing streak. Again, albeit to Volk and then the injury. I think Yair and a lot of people were thinking, well, there's beef between him and Topuria. We don't know if Volk's going to take time off or not. We as fans have already said that we think we would like Volk to take time off so that he's not just rushed straight back in there with Topuria, who might knock him out again. And so the thing was, if Topuria fights in the summer and maybe fights in Spain or anything like that, Mexico versus Spain, 2 Spanish-speaking, exciting strikers, fighters going at it, would be great business for the UFC. And so, he was doing a lot of talk about Topuria, and maybe he did look past him.
I don't really want to sort of dwell on this because I don't think there was any wrongdoing as such, but the stoppage was a little bit interesting because he was tapping and Goddard had stepped in. And I think
Ortega said he didn't hear it. Because Goddard was saying, stop. And then when he got up, he was like saying to him, I told you to stop. But Ortega looked genuinely like, sorry.
Absolutely. And Goddard put a thing out on socials saying, look, there was nothing to see here. He went he's always been the consummate professional, and there was nothing negative about that. But I did think as it was happening, I was like, fucking hell, let go of him.
I know.
But
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't. I mean, he almost got. I think he probably did 10-8'd in round 1. And then and his face was battered and smashed up. I wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't hear very well after all that.
Where does this put Ortega then in the mix? Like, what do we see coming next for him? Because is it I mean, if they're going to take that bit of time out for Volk to recover, like, because we're presuming at some point Volk's going to get the rematch with Topuria, does Ortega get a crack at it?
I think it's possible. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I think really Ortega should maybe get one more win. However, I don't know if you can pull up the UFC rankings on there or anything, or if I can pull them up here. But when you look at that featherweight division, obviously Volk, we don't know what's going on with Volk. I would love him to take some time. Max Holloway is booked up fighting Justin Gaethje. The chances of that not being an epic 5-round war and Max Holloway being quite badly beaten up as well, even if he won the fight, I think it's very, very slim. So I think you've got Volkanovski. Ideally, I'd like to see him take a little break. Holloway, he's booked up with Justin Gaethje. Brian Ortega will be ranked third. And then you've got Movsar Evloev, who really should maybe fight for the belt. He did technically beat Arnold Allen, even though I scored it for Allen, and I think that it wasn't the best. But Dana isn't a fan of Movsar. He said that, he doesn't find him overly exciting.
I don't think the fans do.
I don't think the fans do. I think Topuria has said the guy's never got a finish. Do you do Movsar versus Ortega as a guaranteed number one contender fight? But then that means Topuria's on the bench for a little bit longer. Unless they do if they're going to do Volk versus Topuria, the rematch in the summer, I don't like it. I want Volk to take a break. However, then you do Ortega versus Movsar, winner gets the next crack. Max Holloway is always in with a shout, but we don't know what's going to happen with Justin Gaethje. And as we've said before, fighting Justin Gaethje is like being in a car crash. You're going to be battered and need a break for a while after that. Other than that, Allen's coming off a loss, even though I think he won. Emmett is coming off that big win over Bryce Mitchell, but before that he lost to Yair. Calvin Cater's got Aljamain Sterling. I mean, I think Ortega's in a really good spot. I think he could sneak in there. They do a Spain card in the summer and Volk's not quite ready yet. I think Ortega is ahead of Movsar just in the UFC's eyes because they find him a bigger star, more exciting guy.
Star.
And he is. So I think Brian could sneak into a title shot, which is mad because I think Topuria would beat the shit out of him. But then that's what Ortega does. He gets the shit beaten out of him, and then he seems to somehow win the fight.
Volk beat the shit out of him, and any other fighter. Volk, he would have stopped him. But it's only the fact that Volk used some sort of witchcraft to get out of them jokes. But anybody else, Ortega would have done what we've just seen him do.
The Australian witchcraft that he used. Man. Honestly, yeah. So I think Ortega's in a really good spot. I mean, he's going to need some time to heal up as well. But hell, if they do something in June, July with Topuria, I think Ortega could sneak in there, no problem.
Okay. Let's go over to the little fellas.
The little guys.
Moreno versus Royval. I thought this was good. I enjoyed this.
First round was a bit lackluster, but after that it really picked up.
Right, so
we're going to talk about the scoring, I'm assuming, because I think we've probably scored this differently. There has been a little bit of contention about it. The judges were split. I believe 2 judges gave it 48-47 in favour of Royval, and 1 judge gave it 49-46 in favour of Moreno.
I don't know what that guy was watching.
Oh, maybe we are on a similar page then. Because I agree with you. There's been a lot of talk on other podcasts and some other things I've seen about the fact that Royval threw a huge amount of strikes, like a record-breaking almost amount of strikes, maybe just second only to Max Holloway. But his accuracy was poor, and he didn't actually land a huge amount of strikes. So I don't know if that's swaying people a lot or what, I don't know. But you talk me through how you scored the fight, because maybe we're more similar than I thought.
So the first round I thought was really tight. I didn't think there was loads in it.
Nah.
And I went back and re-watched it, the first round, because on first watch, I gave the first round to Royval.
Okay.
Work with me on this. Where was you on that first round?
I lent Moreno, but honestly, I could have gone either way. Like, I literally put down not much action, could have gone either way. Royval injured his foot, but I'd lent Moreno.
I mean, just quickly as well, on Ortega.
Ortega, we mentioned that, jumped up and rolled his ankle, didn't he?
Literally before the fight.
Jesus Christ. That could have been a bad... Facing Yair Rodriguez back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then he just injured his shoulder, then injured his ankle. But good on him for coming back from that. But again, the toughness of Ortega.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Royval and Moreno.
Who did you give the second round to?
I think I gave it to Moreno. I think he landed a big shot. Royval started to come back, landed a couple of knees, I think. Mm-hmm. But I think I lent Moreno because he just...
His footwork was solid, Moreno's.
I think Moreno's overall performance was not great by Moreno standards.
I gave every other round to Royval.
So what did you... So you gave
potentially one...
So you gave it 49-46 Royval,
and I gave 3, 4, and 5 to Royval, and I gave number 2 to Moreno.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with your scorecard because I gave rounds 3, 4, and 5 to Royval.
Yeah,
I think Royval come back in the third, crisp combos look good. Royval in the fourth, Moreno was looking tired.
Moreno threw some good leg kicks.
Yeah, yes, he was some good leg kicks at the end of combinations, but I don't think that accumulatively did enough to combat what Royval was doing.
In that sort of fourth round, it felt that Royval got the measure of the counter because as he was throwing them shots, Moreno was looking for that overhand shot.
Looping hooks. Not the crisp boxing we see from Moreno often.
And it felt in that round that Royval was like, I know this is coming now and I'm out of the way. And it wasn't working then after that. It felt that he sort of come in. I thought there was some... in the fifth round, I thought, Moreno come out looking like he was... Mm-hmm. He had to pull something off here.
Yeah. And it was, a close round.
And he threw some big shots. But I think just the relentless shots from Royval. And I don't know. I mean, watching it, I saw the stats at the end about the punches thrown and the accuracy and stuff. It all looked... The jab was lightning. And it just felt like it was working. I mean, Moreno looked, a little bit... bashed up as it went on. I know before they went to the judges, they cleaned up Moreno's face, but he was bloodied up, and I thought Royval clearly deserved that. I don't understand if anybody would have scored that for Moreno to win.
I mean, look, I think for me, I went into the fifth round with it being even. But I wouldn't have had any problem with you saying that round one was either fighter's round. It was so inactive and there wasn't much going on. But I went in with that being even, and then in round 5, I just gave it to Royval. But it was close. Herb Dean was very quick to pull him off the fence and keep the action going.
In that last round, he was relentless on that.
He really was. But again, as a fight fan, I didn't mind it because it didn't look like much was going on.
He was just holding him there, really, wasn't he? He wasn't working to. It didn't look like there was any sort of purpose to use that position to do something. And I'm presuming probably exhausted.
Well, he didn't. They were in New Mexico, which is high altitude, but then Moreno is from Mexico. I imagine he was training at that kind of altitude for the fight anyway. Royval
apparently trains at a higher altitude anyway. From what they were saying.
Dominic Cruz looked like he was getting that a bit confused. I don't know if it was a higher or lower or whatever, but he trained. Was he in Denver, Colorado, or something like that, which is a high altitude place? But I don't know whether Mexico's higher, low, whatever it is. But the point is, both of them probably do train at altitude. But Royval looked like he had cardio for days coming off the back of this fight.
Great.
He looked good. But again, he wasn't landing huge shots or anything like that. It was an accumulation. It was a volume thing. What he impressed me with was, I think Moreno saw that Pantoja fight and went, oh, well, the path to victory here is to take you down and sit on you for a bit, and I can just do that. And he clearly doesn't have the skill set or the grappling acumen of Pantoja, because Pantoja was able to do that so easily. And Royval maybe has fixed a hole in his game there, I don't know, but he was very quick to defend the clinches and the takedowns and any opportunity to be put on his back, get up and all those kind of things. So Royval did well in that respect.
The champ was there as well, wasn't he? He was cage side. And possibly the most animated post-fight interview with Royval. He kind of grabbed the moment. Did you see this?
I don't know that I... do you know what it was? My son was with me and he was swearing every other word. So I kept just
You
like having
shouldn't
to
let your kid do that, mate.
Yeah.
It's like,
My son's got a
this
poppy mouth.
fucking fight, Dad.
Yeah. Daddy looks shit. No, Royval was swearing constantly, and so I didn't really listen to it much. There were the MFer was coming out all the time, and I
When
was just
they
like,
then translate that into Portuguese, do they still leave that
Spanish.
in there?
It would be
Spanish. Sorry, would they still keep that in there?
I don't know, man. That's
I did wonder that. Because he was dropping that
other word. I mean, the best thing about that whole fight for me really was seeing Pantoja there giving it the 5-0.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
He's 5-0 against both these fighters, and you're just like, mate. You've just killed those. Like any chance these two have got of a rematch, you just killed it with just that to me.
Because I mean, weird division because they were sort of talking about Moreno's like last fights, and it's literally just rematch with like essentially Royval, Figgy, and Pantoja.
Well, let's go into that because look, 301 UFC 301 needs a main event. They're in Brazil. They're in Rio, as far as I'm aware. Pantoja is Brazilian. You would have thought that the fight to have done would have been Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, but I think they ran into so many blockades with UFC 300, with whoever they wanted to headline that card. They've ended up way down the list, and they've taken away from UFC 301 to put it on UFC 300. Mm-hmm. So what headlines UFC 301? You would imagine at least one of the main or co-main or whatever will be a Brazilian. Charles Oliveira's on UFC 300. Mm-hmm. Alex Pereira is on UFC 300. Gelton Almeida's supposed to be fighting Curtis Blades. I can't remember when, but it's going to be soon. So if Gelton Almeida wins, and I don't think he will, I think Curtis Blades will win. If he wins, does he take on Tom Aspinall in Rio? Maybe. I don't know if Tom would want that, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a very winnable fight for Tom.
Surely Tom's Manchester.
Well, I mean, if you're Tom, I think being a guy that the UFC can rely on and just go, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Because he could go, yeah, I'll fight in UFC 301, which would be in May. And if he fights a Gelton Almeida and just boxes him up in a round, which I think he could do because Gelton Almeida is quite small for that division. And Gelton Almeida is not a great striker. He's a very good grappler, but he'll be 2 stone lighter than Tom or whatever he'll be. And he'll be... I think he'll be there for Tom to use his footwork and just smash about the place. He could headline UFC 301 and then go to Manchester and fight there. But then you've also got Leon Bilal, which could do Manchester. So I don't know. There's options there, but I'm just wondering what you can do for 301 because there's not many options in terms of Brazilian champions and fighters that can headline. And I'm just thinking, do you need to use Pantoja? And if you do need to use Pantoja as your headliner for UFC 301 to have a Brazilian in there, who does he fight? Has Brandon Royval, done enough with this win that's a controversial win in some people's eyes when he was beaten by Pantoja so easily only like 2-3 months ago?
How long ago was it?
So can they book Royval Pantoja again?
What else is there?
I don't want to see it. I tell you, well, I think they would have booked Moreno had Moreno won because the last fight was at least a close, really good fight. So that made sense. But Royval Pantoja doesn't make any sense to me. You look down at that flyweight division, Amir Albazi's injured. I would like to have seen him got a shot. He was supposed to be fighting Moreno, but Royval stepped in for him because he was injured, so it can't be him. I don't want to see Royval. Kai Kara France, I believe, is injured, so it won't be him, and he maybe hasn't earned a title shot yet.
No, I don't think he's...
Mateus Nicolau, I think maybe is Mateus Nicolau coming off a loss or something, but he was supposed to be fighting Manel Cap. Manel Cap can't make weight, so you can't give it to Manel Cap. And then you get Alex Perez, who is fighting this Saturday, coming against Mohamed Mokaev. For me, the stars could have aligned here and we could get at 301, especially if Mokaev gets a finish over Perez. Mokaev Pantoja for the belt. It might be a bit early for Mokaev, but I think that this is just, as I say, stars have aligned. Royval winning this fight has really opened the door for someone at flyweight to just kind of kick it in and go, I'm the next guy. And especially if they need Pantoja for 301, there's not many options out there. So for me, Mohamed Mokaev gets a win this weekend against Alex Perez, will be ranked 7th, and he's undefeated. I think he might get a shot against Pantoja.
That's a great shout.
Be great for Mokaev. I mean, it'd be great for us as well. UK MMA, having another title challenger
Absolutely.
there. And he's undefeated. No one's figured out that puzzle yet. I know he's had issues in some fights where he's not looked as good as we thought he would be. But he's very young. This could
very
be great.
flexible. His leg can literally bend the wrong way.
Christ, that was just sickening. But yeah, I really think that could be an interesting fight. I do. I would think Pantoja would be the favourite if they made that fight. But I don't know. I think if you're Mokaev, you get a finish this weekend and you call for Pantoja, you say you'll fight him in Brazil, I think you've got your first ever title shot.
I agree. That's exciting, man.
That would be great. That'd be a great fight. It would be nice for someone new to get their chance as well. You know, we were maybe hoping it would be Al-Bazi because he's maybe done enough. But yeah, if it's Mokaev, that could be really exciting, really shake that division up a little bit. So, yeah, could be good.
We've also seen this weekend the announcement that UFC 303 is going to be at the Sphere.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
I thought they were doing UFC Noche or whatever at the Sphere this time.
303.
303 they're doing.
Is what they've announced.
Nice.
And with a nice big picture of the logo on the outside of the Sphere.
Could that be Conor Chandler?
And, I don't know.
Because when would it be? So 300 is April, 301 will be May, 302, I'm guessing July. No, well,
when's
June,
Manchester?
June. Manchester is meant to be July. So that Manchester might just be a fight night.
Might just be a fight night. I don't know. If Tom's on there or Leon's on there, that's a numbered card, surely.
Yeah, but maybe it won't be. Maybe that won't be. So you think we got 300 in April, 301 probably May, 302 I'm assuming June, but then late June was meant to be a numbered card because that's what Conor was talking about, but let's just say it's not. And then, 303 might be... I'm confusing myself now. Would that be July? Would that be July?
I guess it's going to be there or thereabouts.
International Fight Week? Well, International Fight Week's supposed to be late June now, though, isn't it? I don't know. But I do think...
where are you going to put Conor McGregor? The Sphere. I mean, that's got...
It sounds about right, doesn't it?
That's probably going to justify the ticket prices.
And Dana has mentioned how, he wants the Sphere to be, the greatest combat sports event ever.
Yeah.
He's like, what we could do in that place. And he seems more excited about doing it. The way he says it, anyway, is he's less inclined to... He's not as bothered about the financial implications of doing a show at the Sphere like we would be with pretty much every other fight. He's more interested in going, this is going to be something really special for the fans, all that stuff. You get Conor McGregor over at the Sphere. I don't know how many people it would hold, the Sphere, but...
John Jones be ready to fight then?
John Jones, as far as I'm aware, was like a 10-month break. So that would be August at the earliest. But who knows? He's a freak of nature in a lot of ways. He might repair quickly, like Wolverine. I don't know. But yeah. So that's... I don't know what Moreno does next. He didn't look great compared to normal. But yeah, I don't know.
Something else that went down at the weekend was the PFL champions versus the Bellator champions in this kind of sort of hybrid event to kind of merge the businesses together. And one of the things that we did also see was Francis was cage side with trainer Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And John Jones was there as well. I believe there was a little interaction. There's just a picture of them both there at the moment. I mean, this is interesting that John Jones is there. I mean, I wonder why he's there. I mean, I presume that it's a very moneyed event, and maybe they wanted him there.
Well, it was in Saudi, right?
Yeah. And
you know that they're always, they've got money behind them. They've also got stake, I believe, in the PFL. There's Saudi money within the PFL now.
Oh, okay.
So it's very possible that they just went, look, what will give us ratings, what will make people interested in us is seeing John Jones and Francis Ngannou at the same event. Look, and smart business sense in that, because Lord knows Francis Ngannou probably isn't going to get invited back by Dana White to be at a UFC event. So it makes sense for the PFL to go, the only time you're going to see John Jones and Francis Ngannou in the same place is on our broadcast. So that's good business for them. I know they did an interview with him, which by all accounts was maybe, I don't know, not the best or a bit awkward or something. And they were putting it on him that, we're doing, fight promotion versus fight promotion card here, and your Dana's never going to do that, or UFC's never going to do that, or something like that, which is true. But then you're doing promotion versus promotion now that you own the other promotion. It's not like you've gone to Cage Warriors or KSW or anything like that and done this. So yeah, I mean, looking at the card, I'm not going to lie. So I didn't watch it. Yeah. For me, it was a little bit steep because, all right, PFL acquiring Bellator now give them a lot of great fighters. You could argue Patchy Mix is the best bantamweight on the planet. I think I would say it's Merab, but there's an argument to be made. Patchy Mix is a very, very good fighter. Johnny Eblin, would he beat Dricus du Plessis? Possibly. So you might have the best middleweight in the world there as well. But when I look at those fighters and I see that I have to have a subscription plus pay 20 quid on the pay-per-view or whatever, I was like, I'm not really down. I don't have DAZN currently. I mean, at least with your TNTs and all that, you're getting, your football, your Champions League, not that I'm a big football fan anymore, but like you got your WWE wrestling, you got loads there plus the UFC. I am not aware of a huge amount that DAZN has outside of boxing, and if you've been a fan of the show for a while, I'm not a huge boxing fan. So to get that subscription and to then pay 20 quid for this card just felt a little bit steep for me. Did you watch any of it?
No, I've seen. I saw the sort of footage of Ferreira finishing Ryan Bader, and I believe that the Henham fight was the only PFL winner on the card. The Bellator fighters romped it.
Well, yeah, if we look at, I mean, you've got Vadim Nemkov, who I think is brilliant. He's moved up to heavyweight now and was the light heavyweight champion of Bellator for a long time, beating Bruno Capoloza. Jason Jackson, I mean, Ray Cooper III, I don't think he won the PFL tournament last year. I don't know I can't remember who won that tournament, but I don't think it was Ray Cooper. I don't think he's won that for a while. So Jason Jackson, who's the Bellator champion, who did really well beating Yaroslav Amosov, he's going to win that fight. Johnny Eblin, by all accounts, struggled with him, but Kasanganay, and again, PFL don't have a middleweight division, so as far as I'm aware, was he? I mean, this is probably something where I should have this information in front of me, before I start saying stuff. But Johnny Eblin, by all accounts, obviously he won, but it wasn't a great performance by all accounts.
Yoel Romero beat Thiago Santos. Another win for AJ McKee. Clarissa Shields also got the split win over DeSantis. I mean, I guess so. Hennon's now the heavyweight champ of the division now.
He won the tournament, and then obviously champ v champ, and he beats Ryan Bader.
And so, in theory, he's got to be next for Francis Ngannou as a PFL fighter on paper, right?
Well, that's what they said before the
AJ announcement.
Well, no. That's what they said before the fight. Before Bader versus Ferreira, I think they realised a little extra kind of way to get people interested in this is to go, Francis Ngannou's return to MMA will be to fight the winner of the Bellator champ Ryan Bader or the PFL champ Renan Ferreira. So,
does that excite you?
Sorry, I'm still trying to view on here the champion stuff regarding Impa Kasanganay and stuff. I'm just trying to pull that up.
So he's beaten Ryan Bader and his other wins.
Yeah, so Ferreira was the champ. He was the champ. So but all right. Does it excite me? I think Ferreira's about 6'7".
He's a big boy.
He's a big old boy. He knocked Bader out pretty easily, round 1. Is he a name that I'm excited to see Ngannou fight? No. Does it make sense for Ngannou? Like, you got to put yourself in Ngannou's position. He's coming off of a fight where, even though he lost, his stock rose dramatically in boxing, a sport he's always loved, where you get paid so much more to fight. And he's about to go and fight Anthony Joshua. Like, Renan Ferreira? Does
Tyson Fury.
Do it for you?
AJ, and then Renan Ferreira.
It's not doing much for you. I mean, look, if he gets humiliated by AJ, maybe going to fight Renan Ferreira is no bad thing. If he loses, that's a real tumble from grace. That is not looking good. But
he beats AJ.
If he beats AJ, is he going to go and fight Renan Ferreira in the PFL? No. He's going to go and fight the winner of Usyk versus Fury.
Yeah.
That's where he'll get so much more. He'll get like 10 times the amount of money. It'll be crazy for him to fight Renan Ferreira. As much as I want to see him back in MMA, because I think he's a great, he's the lineal MMA champ, if we want to say that. Yep. UFC is the best belt you can get. PFL is trying. Bellator tried. UFC is the top belt. Francis Ngannou did not lose his belt. Say what you like, John Jones, whatever. John Jones did not beat Francis Ngannou. He could have fought him earlier. He waited around, and then Francis left, and then he came, now I'm a heavyweight. Is John Jones amazing? Yes, he's brilliant. But is he genuine? Is he the baddest man on the planet? Is he the heavyweight champ? No, in my eyes, it's still Francis Ngannou, and I still think Tom Aspinall beats both of them. So, a little rant there about John Jones, but I think if you're in Ngannou, you're going where the money is, and you're sticking in boxing. I mean, it's not like he stuck around and did a face-off with Ferreira, was it? If he really wanted to fight Renan Ferreira, he would have stuck around when Ferreira's arm was raised.
Get the little marketing clip.
Yeah, you do a face-off after Joshua. You're next. Blah blah blah. Didn't do any of it. I think he left. He left the stadium, so they couldn't even get a shot of him. That's not a great look, is it? In terms of for the PFL and for that fight actually materialising. But I'd much rather see Ngannou fight someone who could have been out of contract within the UFC. I know that the first fight was terrible, but give me Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou.
You keep mentioning this. It's about the third time you've mentioned this.
I would love it. It would be good. I think it would be better. It can't be as bad as the first fight.
It can't be as bad.
No, it would be. I think it would actually be interesting. I think it could be good. And I think people would be way more intrigued to see Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou than Renan Ferreira versus Francis Ngannou, even with the first fight being so bad.
This is true. This is true. But I don't think Derek Lewis is going to sign to PFL.
Well, he's not now. He's recently signed a new UFC contract. So, not great. But
no.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know, I'm still trying to look up because I'm so behind. I really want to look this up. But I can't find it. Can't find it. So
okay. Don't stress about it, mate. Don't stress about it.
Was he light heavyweight? It's infuriating. PFL, make your website easier for me to look through.
Well, I mean, has this event, did it get a lot of coverage? I don't know. We follow lots of the platforms that are all about MMA on the socials, and it all seemed to get eclipsed by the UFC yet again. And
sorry, I have to interrupt you. Impa Kasanganay was the light heavyweight champion of PFL.
Yeah.
Not welterweight, so light heavyweight.
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
That was the burning question.
Will you sleep
Everyone watching this was desperate to know. Impa Kasanganay. But here's the thing, I've just been trying to look that up for ages, and I got a bit OCD about it, and I had to kind of work out what that was. Yeah. But does anyone care? Is anyone watching this going, thanks for that. Yeah. I really needed to know. Probably not. They don't care.
I think this collaboration between the two organisations comes at a strange time. It comes when the UFC are stacking cards that are so exciting, and I think you've got to do something spectacular. And I think now, what they done at the weekend, I think was the fanfare. That was the best thing they could throw at it. Right, the champions are fighting the champions. But when your champions are Ryan Bader and, Renan Pereira, it's like, is anyone that excited about that? I don't know. Make no mistake, Ryan Bader was a stud, and we saw him have some fantastic fights. But I don't know. Does that make us casuals that we're not excited about these fights in these other organisations? Perhaps, but I don't see much hysteria on the socials. It all got eclipsed by Ortega, and some people questioning the scoring on the Moreno fight. Yeah.
Well, look, it feels unfair to some of the fighters because, as we've just pointed out, and we're not blind to the fact that Johnny Eblin could be the best middleweight on the planet.
Yeah, Nemkov, great fighters.
Nemkov. Some of these people, obviously now Ngannou.
Yeah,
some of these people,
great.
Jay Jackson's great. Some of these people could be the best fighters on the planet. The top kind of 2 or 3 in the PFL Bellator merger could match up with a lot of the 2 or 3 maybe in the UFC. But the UFC is like the Champions League. And these other organisations just feel like they're the Europa League. It doesn't get you in the same way. And as you say, fights where it was champ versus champ. Look at this gimmick that we're doing. I mean, granted, we didn't get the fights that we really would have wanted, like, say, Kayla Harrison Cyborg would have been good because now Kayla Harrison's with the UFC, and there's probably a few others out there that didn't materialise. But we're talking more about who's potentially, and not even guaranteed, but potentially number 1 contenders in the flyweight and featherweight UFC divisions over these what should have been epic champ versus champ fights and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know what they need to do. I don't know if it's just about bringing stars over. Do they need to get Nate Diaz in to fight Jake Paul? Do they need to get Ngannou fighting someone other than maybe Renan Pereira? Or just is Ngannou fighting in the PFL at all against anyone? Is that going to draw eyeballs, especially if he beats Joshua? Maybe it will.
That's the key. That's the key, is to get a name that diehard or even casual UFC fans.
Well, it's more about casuals, getting the casuals in.
And pulling their eyes over to the PFL and having Francis or Nate versus Jake Paul or something like that, but then loading that card with some of the other stars that have probably never had that level of exposure before and showcase, your AJ McGee's and your Jacksons and Nemkovs, because they're fantastic fighters, but I don't think many eyes find their way over to watch it because PFL's the wrong 3 letters, because everybody's with the UFC.
What if they were on a different, don't get me wrong, I'm sure DAZN's great for what it does. I've not really seen it, but do they need to be on a platform that's free for a little bit? I know Bellator was on BBC, but they weren't on BBC. They were just on the iPlayer. And PFL did a little thing with Channel 4 for a bit. But again, they were only on the Channel 4 YouTube page. Does a channel need to take them on and they go, look, we're going to put this stuff out for free? Whether it be Channel 5 have done it before, and then Peppa Pig came on during Bellator. Do you remember that?
No.
Bellator, one of the Bellator main events or something like that in the UK ran too long, and Peppa Pig just came on at 5 something in the morning or whatever.
I'm all over Ngannou versus Daddy Pig, mate.
So that'd be great. But I don't know. They've sort of maybe tried these things before, but do they need it on a sport? Does it need to be Sky Sports? Does it need to be something? I don't know what they need, but they need something, because I don't know what the numbers would be for subscribers to DAZN. I have no idea. Maybe it's really good, but it's a boxing channel as far as I was concerned.
Maybe it's a bigger deal in other countries, because in the UK, I guess we're so used to UFC. But maybe, obviously, look at an organisation like Octagon, which is huge in Europe. Yeah, over here, it's growing, obviously, but it's nowhere near the size it is across Europe. Maybe Bellator and the PFL have got, a sufficient and growing audience in the States? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't get that vibe. So yeah, I'm not sure. But competition is good. I don't want people to think, God, they're just slagging off non-UFC organisations or something like that. Competition is great. If the PFL and Bellator combined can create buzz and interest and do something that we're really, really excited
Everyone's
about.
a winner.
And they put it on in a way that we can all access it easily enough. Then yeah, everyone's a winner. It's great. It gives the fighters more options. They can go and get bigger money elsewhere. And I mean, the thing that's going to be really interesting, and I know we're probably running long now, is there's this class action lawsuit against the UFC that at the moment is not looking great for the UFC. I don't know exactly what's going on with it.
Explain to listeners what that involves. What is that?
Yeah, well, you're asking me with all my law degree that I have.
No. Just give us a brief overview of what that means.
You're probably asking the wrong guy, to be honest.
Right.
But basically, there's contract disputes going on between a bunch of fighters and the UFC saying that they had a monopoly, which is illegal in America. I don't know if it's illegal over here as well. But a monopoly on the sport, on the industry. And therefore, they were able to underpay and give bad contracts to fighters from the time of like 2000. And again, it'll all be online if you want to look this up. But say it's like 2006 to 2016 or something like that. And basically, anyone who has been a fighter on the roster is part of that class action lawsuit. I think even like Conor McGregor or something like that. Is part of that lawsuit, even if they're not actively involved in the lawsuit, because they were a fighter in that time. And basically, it's gone through a bunch of different appeals by the UFC to get it thrown out. It has not been thrown out. So it will go to court now, as far as I'm aware. And there are plenty of fighters on as part of this class action lawsuit, which has multiple lawyers going against the UFC, saying, you had a monopoly, you underpaid, you gave bad contracts, you didn't necessarily treat fighters in the way they should have been treated. And a judge or maybe jury, I don't know, will have to decide based on all the evidence given whether that's the case or not. And if that is the case, if they find that they are in favour of, would it be the claimants? In this case, then the UFC will have to pay huge sums of damages. I mean, astronomical. Now, they will probably pay that over the course of 30 years. So it won't be like they have to pay $1 billion. It'll be over the course of a long time. But these fighters would hopefully get money that they feel like they were due. But also what it means is the contracts will change. So there is a world in which the contracts within the UFC, where they're tying people down to really long contracts, or, you owe us 8 fights, and if it takes you 15 years or you don't complete all these fights, we can't like George St. Pierre would love to go and do something else. He can't. Francis Ngannou had to really fight the system, and we're aware of what happened with him fighting against the UFC to get free agency and go and box and stuff like that. So that might now lead to a situation where it's maybe like, we want 5 fights from you, but your contract is terminated after 3 years. So after 3 years, you can be a free agent and go elsewhere. Whereas with Conor or like Nate's situation, when he tried to get free agency and stuff, they tried to, keep him on the bench for a really long period of time, it seemed. Then they gave him Khamzat Chimaev, and luckily for Nate, Khamzat missed weight. So yeah, they could completely change the contracts. In which case, you can see a world where if the PFL can stick around and do business and do okay, then all of a sudden the market really opens up to them, because they could turn round to Israel Adesanya or Conor McGregor or anyone and say, we're going to pay you double what the UFC will to get you over here and fight our champion. And we'd give you a 3-fight contract and we'll do whatever. And, they can say that to these fighters. And then what you might get is maybe more of a boxing model where they've got, WBA, WBO and whatever, and we will have the PFL, the UFC and whatever we would have. For fans overall, it's probably worse because you might have... it's worse in terms of like... everyone would be scattered all over the place. You wouldn't have all the best fighters under one roof, which is what the UFC tends to more often than not offer, which is why we talk about the UFC more than any other organisation. But if you have the PFL So I've slightly lost my train of thought. But basically, if you've got all fighters under one roof, you're going to get the best fights. But it's not fair on the fighters. PFL could offer something different. If these contracts are up quickly, then it gives opportunity for fighters to go across and fight whoever. You can get Jones versus Ngannou, you can get all that stuff. But again, this is just hyperbole. I don't know that this is all actually going to happen. And the other thing is, the lawsuit could get thrown out. We don't know. So, yeah. We're not sure what's going to happen.
It definitely won't, because there's no corruption in mixed martial arts. So I'm sure that will never happen.
No.
All right. Well, look, thanks for watching or listening. If you are listening and you've not watched, then head over to YouTube and check out our new channel, because we put a lot of time and effort into creating this lovely little sports desk where we have these chats. You can watch some of the fight pictures and stuff on the big screen behind us. So head over to YouTube and just subscribe. That'd be really good. It helps us get our numbers up. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think about some of the things that we've said on today's show. Also, go check out coming soon. We've got a fantastic chat with Luke Riley of the Cage Warriors fame, and one of the most exciting fighters in MMA at the moment. He's on an absolute tear at the moment, and he's never in a boring fight. That's coming soon. And I mean, from the archives, we're mentioning somebody that's very much involved in the PFL. Is Dan Hardy. We had a wonderful chat with Dan. We should try and reach out and get him back on to kind of ask him all about what's happening.
Yeah, maybe he knows more about this class action lawsuit, because I was rambling for about 5 minutes. I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and but yeah, go over to YouTube and subscribe. And if you're listening to this on the podcast platforms, make sure you subscribe there as well. And thanks for supporting the podcast. And if it's inspired you to go to the gym and have a little roll about or learn some striking, before you do that, head over to ferociousfightwear.com and get yourself kitted out. We're back next time. In the meantime, bye.
Bye.